In 2 days from now, India gets its new parliament. It's going to be inaugurated. And one of the most talked about showpieces inside this parliament, an ornament of great value and significance, is the Sengol. Most Indians had never even heard of the Sengol until yesterday, and now everyone is talking about it. The man who triggered the entire discussion about the Sengol, who wrote a very memorable piece in his magazine Tughlaq, which was shared with the Prime Minister and sparked off this entire mission to revive and relocate the Sengol to a more rightful place in India's Parliament. S. Gurumurthy, editor of Tughlaq magazine. It's a privilege to have you, sir, with us. Thank you for being with India today, and thank you for your time. I'd like to start off, Mr. Gurumurthy, by asking you, about the idea for the Sengol being relocated from its current location in Prayagraj to the Parliament. Where did that idea spring from, Mr. Gurumurthy?
Actually, this was done by one of the family members of the jeweler family which did it. This Umidi jewelers. When this news started appearing in Tamil Nadu from 2018 onwards, and the news also said that it is their family elders who had done it. One of the members of the family tried to find out where the Sengol is kept, and he found it in the Anand Bhavan Museum. So the credit goes to him, and of course the photographs and everything began appearing later in the newspapers. I don't think the government had much trouble in locating it. They already had a very legitimate informant.
Very, very interesting. An article that you had written in Tughlaq, sir, an article appearing in Tughlaq, was translated by Dr. Padma Subramaniam, well-known dancer. She wrote it up in a letter and sent it to the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And that was, that is what triggered this entire chain of events. Tell us how that happened, sir.
You see, when I read these news items, I sourced it in a private conversation which the Kanchi Paramacharya had with his disciples on the Independence Day in 1978. And he was telling them that such an event took place, this is how it happened, Rajaji's role, and how Pandit Nehru was asked by Mountbatten what is the ritual or the symbolism by which you will assume power, because we have certain symbolism. What is your symbolism? And all this is explained in detail by the Kanchi Paramacharya in that private conversation, which had come out much later in a book form. Of course, it had been properly noted by his disciple, and it was so meticulously explained. I got interested in that, and I thought that it must be made public. So by that time some news items had also appeared, and we had also found in the Thiruvadurai Adinam premises that the Sengol was handed, they had certain documents, they had photographs, and these photographs appeared with Jawaharlal Nehru holding all that. Then I found this is a very, very verified and a credible report. And so I wrote it in the Tughlaq, a very detailed article as to how it happened, referring to the Kanchi Paramacharya and the different media reports. Padma Subramaniam, who regularly reads the Tughlaq, she rang me up and said, Guru, you should not stop with just writing this article, and I will translate it into English, and I want to write a letter to the Prime Minister, and can you please send it to the Prime Minister on my behalf. In fact, actually it was sent from my mail ID, but the letter was written by her. And I sent it to the Prime Minister. Her request was that in the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Ka period, this great event that took place must be made public. The people of India should be aware of it. And that this Sengol, which was symbolism, agreed to by both governments. It's some kind of a protocol. It was not a private ceremony. And so this must find a place in our, at the time Parliament of Aska was not in the picture. She said, her request to the Prime Minister was, this must be properly recalled and projected and presented to the people of India.
Because, you know, Mr. Gurumurthy, the sense that most people had yesterday when the Home Minister mentioned the Sengol in his press conference, you know, most people were wondering, what is Sengol? We have never heard of this. And, you know, over the next few hours, the entire country is talking about the Sengol. For the people of Tamil Nadu, you and, those who are well informed, who've read Tamil literature especially, know what the Sengol is. I have to admit that even I was ignorant of this, sir, despite, being born and brought up in Tamil Nadu. But the fact that something of such significance, that came to the limelight during such a significant day of India's history, could have receded so far away from the public eye and public knowledge, is also an element of some note and some surprise, sir.
It is to me no surprise, because the way our polity took a turn, there was an attempt to undo the past. Anything connected to the past is a problem for future. And so, for every country, the future will be uncertain. For us, the past became uncertain. What we were in the past, what we did in the past, better not recall these things. You know, in this tsunami of undoing the past, the Sengol also disappeared. This is the simplest explanation I will give. I am not giving any very conflicting or extremely volatile explanation. I am just giving a simple explanation. We wanted to do away with the past. And one of the things that was consumed in this was the Sengol. But if you want me to tell something about the Sengol, I will. But the Sengol has a very high value in the Indian tradition. It figures in Ramayana, it figures in Mahabharata, it is in Silappatikaram. Thiruvalluvar, who is accepted by all the religions of Tamil Nadu, if not elsewhere, he has written 10 verses about Sengol.
Yes.
And Sengol is very highly regarded as symbolism of not the king, but a higher value, which is called Aram in Tamil Nadu. It is translated into Dharma. And when the word Dharma is used, there is a problem. But the Supreme Court has very clearly distinguished between Dharma and religion. Dharma is independent of religion. It connotes values. It doesn't signify faith at all. In fact, we have 3 traditions in our darshanas which do not believe in God, external God at all, but they believe in the idea of dharma. So we mixed dharma and religion and got into an eternal confusion. Our constitution also speaks about dharma nirapekshata in the Hindi translation, which is very, very wrong. Sooner it is corrected, the better.
Mr. Gurumurthy, most people who have been watching the story of the Sengol, are surprised, they're delighted that, something that they'd never heard about is going to, find a pride of place in our new parliament. There are some voices saying that this is a relic of India's, past when there was a monarchy, and such items have no place in a seat of parliament and a seat of democracy. How would you address people with that kind of view, sir?
I think if you look at the first constitution, which was signed by all the constituent assembly members, it starts with a Yagashala. Fundamental rights chapter starts with the return of Rama to Ayodhya. It talks about Ashoka, it talks about Chhatrapati Shivaji, it talks about, this is a connect. Our constitution is an attempt to reconcile the past with the present. It is not to ignore the past. In fact, if you look at Article 29 and 30, it is not there in any other civilization except Indian civilization, because when Article 29 and 30 was not there, the Indian civilization protected the Jews and the Parsis. It is never heard of in the world. So Article 29 and 30 is a product of Indian civilization.
Yes.
It is not a product of Westphalian democracy. So we are not even taught about what is the source of our constitutional provisions. For example, there is a provision in the constitution which says you must protect the cow, you must protect animals. This is nowhere in any constitution of the world. This thought came much later in 2001 when Biodiversity Convention was adopted by the United Nations. And our government emblem is Satyameva Jayate. See, please understand, where is the source of Satyameva Jayate?
Yeah.
So, I think to look at the past with a colored eye is perversion.
Do you think that this could be the beginning of a new kind of awakening, a new kind of thought process about, that specific thing you're talking about, Mr. Gurumurthy, about, the past does not pass. You can't cut yourself off from the past. And the Sengol in many ways, and its rebirth in some ways, its relocation to a place of much greater visibility, comes to symbolize and represent that sort of reawakening and recognition that the past is not something you can simply shut away.
It's as much a correction. We have gone the wrong way. It is not that this is a new awakening. Actually, it's a correction, course correction. We have got into serious problems by thinking the past is a burden. All over the world, there is a new thinking that is evolving in the last decade. That even the source of modernity, which was regarded as the enlightened movement in the West, is being discarded now. Each nation, each civilization has its own way of self-renewal, and that is the modernization process.
Yes.
And there is no such discourse in India, and that means if that discourse is there, you will have to connect yourself to the past. The Indian discourse is actually, there is a sense of perversion and a sense of self-hate in it. And this Sengol event is a thumping recall of the past, which is associated with the present. That's the most important thing. Sengol connects you to a past of 1,000 years of the Chola rule and before.
Yes.
But it connects you to the present through the constitutional rule that evolved on 15th August 1947.
It's very interesting, Mr. Gurumurthy, how you mentioned, you suggest that the Sengol kind of disappeared in that tsunami of trying to, get away from the past and disconnect from the past right after independence. The Sengol itself was discovered, like you rightly said, in the Anand Bhavan Museum in Prayagraj, where the caption very interestingly says, golden walking stick given to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. What did you think of that? We asked the people from the Vumidi family also yesterday about the Sengol being described as a walking stick, and they said that they were quite surprised, that it had been described so. What did you think, sir?
You see, it is unfortunate that when such a high value symbol is being placed in the parliament, that I don't think it was some decision taken at the highest level to, that it had come from the Prime Minister's house, and a fellow who doesn't know about any of these things, he thought it was a stick, and what is the best way to describe it is the walking stick.
Yeah.
I think a 5-foot tall the golden stick with a Nandi on the top with the inscriptions should be described like this. Shows the carelessness with which we handle the past. You see, we are just careless about it. We use very strong words. We use very strong words against our literature, against our forefathers, against our traditions. We are used to that. It has become a normal to abuse the Indian traditions. And in that atmosphere, if something like this happened, I will again attribute it to the same atmosphere. The tsunami of hate against our past is the reason why such a recent symbol has been described like this. And I feel very, very bad. And anyone who had done that should be called to account. And how the Sengol got transferred from when it was handed over to Pandit Nehru by the Shaivite saint on 14th August, it was not just it was handed over. 11 verses of the Tevaram was sung, and with the blessings of the divinity, you will rule. When such a thing was happened, who handled it from stage to stage, year to year, when it was deposited, who gave this inscription, this should be found out by an inquiry.
Okay, I wonder if that inquiry will actually happen. It's very interesting. What we know for sure is that the country and the world, after well over 70 years, will, for their first time, set their eyes on the Sengol for real, because it's going to be set right next to the Lok Sabha Speaker in the new Parliament. Mr. Gurumurthy, final question to you. I know you don't want to get into the politics of the day and what's happening, but, among those who will not be able to regard the Sengol on day one when the Parliament is opened this Sunday is going to be virtually the entire opposition. 19 parties have said that they are going to boycott Parliament. It's a very significant and symbolic day, even beyond just the Sengol. I must have your thoughts on that, sir. What do you think of that?
You see, I feel that, of course, the boycott of the Parliament has been one of the ways the opposition has been protesting against the ruling party for a long time. In fact, I have had discussions with very top political leaders on this, and nobody is happy with this. Even the BJP, when it was in the opposition, it was not happy with that, but it was still doing it. I can understand the political compulsions which make you boycott politics when a bill is being presented, or when somebody is talking, you walk out. But this is not one such occasion.
Yeah.
You may even understand boycotting Parliament is a new normal in Indian democracy for the last 25-30 years. This is not an occasion in which this should be happening. There should be a line drawn that where this protest to the extent of boycotting, where it should not be. That line is not there. That wisdom is not there. That is not good for democracy. As much as the opposition says that the ruling party's conduct is not good for democracy, you are not drawing the line between where you should be carrying on that protest. If you don't draw the line, then you are harming the very democracy which you are trying to protect. This point one. Point two, at least the Sengol function should be separated from your Parliament work, and the opposition should attend the Sengol function. The DMK party, after it came to power, it has presented a report to the Tamil Nadu Assembly in 2021, after Stalin took over, that a symbolic presentation was made by the Tamil Nadu Adinam in the form of a Sengol. It recalled it with pride, and it is part of the official records of the Assembly. So I feel the DMK owns it really. Why they are part of it, I cannot understand.
It's very interesting. You've given us a great deal to chew on and to think about over the next couple of days leading up to this big occasion. Personally, congratulations to you, Mr. Gurumurthy, because after all, even though I know you're a self-effacing man, you don't want to take any credit publicly, but it is your article that set off this chain of events that will finally result in the unveiling of the Sengol in a much more visible spot, not in a Prayagraj museum, but in India's new Parliament. What could be better than that and more befitting an ornament that was part of India's day one of independence? Thank you very much, Mr. Gurumurthy, for speaking to India Today.